Hi guys, and welcome to the Sunderland vs Middlesbrough match preview. So Sunderland do take on Middlesbrough this weekend in, we say this every time we have a preview or a review of this game, say all the time, is this or is this not a derby? Now, you can let me know in the comments down below how you feel about this. I've already made it very, very clear over the years how I feel about it. I don't think it's a derby, personally, and I think if you have to ask the question, then it isn't. You know, when anyone ever asks me who Sunderland's derby is, it's just always been Newcastle, it's just always been the Mags, that's just what it's been. And I think because we always get this question about it being a derby and it gets hyped up so much because of that question, it almost has built up this sort of false rivalry, but there is a bit of a rivalry there because of that. But I definitely wouldn't class it as a derby personally, and all other people do. It is what it is, but for me, it just isn't a derby. You know, if we get beat by the Mags, then I'm gutted for weeks on end. If we get beat by Middlesbrough, it's just like, you know, it's shit, but it's just another defeat. It isn't as gut-wrenching as it would be had it have been Newcastle, if that makes sense. But yeah, I thought I'd just get that one out there, give you my opinion. You're more than welcome to give me yours in the comments. I know some people disagree with me, some people agree, some people just treat it like any other game. But I'd probably say it's just above a regular game in terms of like a little bit of a rivalry. It has been almost created because of it, but yeah, it's definitely not a derby in my eyes. Either way, we'll get into it. So I've just been watching the pre-match presser with REGIS, of course. He's been speaking on the back of that defeat against Plymouth. Very, very disappointing. And it'll be interesting to see how we respond to it, because the first time we've, of course, seen a defeat under REGIS. So it's going to be very interesting to see how the team respond, how he responds, if we're going to see significant changes in the side or big sort of tactical changes to the side. Are we going to see any changes at all? That's what I'm very interested and excited to see as well, because I think in a game like this, because it will be built up quite big because of this sort of rivalry / derby, if you will, this would be the perfect opportunity to bounce back. And if we do bounce back and play well and get the result at the Stadium Light in front of a packed Stadium Light, you know, it'll give us that feel-good factor back immediately. That'll be injected, because it was so deflating, you know, against Plymouth, where, of course, we won 4 from 4. We could have broken a club record if we made it 5 from 5. You know, if we drew against Plymouth, I wouldn't be anywhere near as pissed off. You know, I'd be like, you know, okay, probably expected to beat Plymouth to a degree going into that game because of form and all that kind of stuff. The way we were playing, I know we're not going to win every single game. That's unrealistic to think that way. So a draw, I would have been like, okay, we're still picking up points. We're still playing well. And even if we're not at our best, we're still picking up points. That's the big thing. But, of course, because we lost, and in the manner we did, you know, last second, 3-2, it was an absolute kick in the gut. So everyone's balloon was popped, you know, because everyone was flying and on cloud 9 because of the original 4 from 4 wins. So to win in this game, and maybe well as well, you know, I'm putting a really good display, see what they're about, see what the lads' mettle is, see how their mindset is in this kind of situation. And REGIS, of course, win that game, and everyone will be flying again. Everyone will absolutely be flying again. And I'm really, really excited, as I say, to see how REGIS does respond. But anyway, we'll get into the sort of the preview to it. So Middlesbrough, of course, are currently sat in 10th. Only lost one game, I believe, so far in the league sort of this season. That was it. Derby, and Derby for me have been one of the poorest looking side, the sort of most toothless looking side. But they did manage to beat Middlesbrough, did Derby. Wins against Swansea and Cardiff. Of course, Cardiff not doing so good. But as I recently drew against Preston, who aren't a terrible side at all by any stretch. And I think what you get with a lot of Middlesbrough sides anyway nowadays, particularly under Carrick, you know, you get a lot of... There's aggression, there's a will to fight, there's a lot of desire in these teams, and they're very structured and well balanced, and they're very organised. That's one thing you do get with these Middlesbrough sides under Carrick at the moment, and they do create chances. But they do have weaknesses of their own, and it's whether we can stick to our own game plan and not focus solely on them. And I don't want, just because of what happened at the weekend, I don't want us to go almost overly defensive and overly concentrate on their strengths, because then I don't want us to go sit back and be within ourselves, because then we're going to be prone to the chances that Middlesbrough make anyway, and we're just going to be asking for it, and we're not good when we sit back. We're not great with that, I find, anyway, particularly when you don't have an outlet, or if we're solely focusing on that. On the counter, I think we are fantastic in terms of the pace we've got inside now with Mayenda and Mundell, of course. Roberts driving us forward, Rigg and Bellingham and the like. But yeah, if our sole focus is just everyone behind the ball because this team are going to make chances, I think it could be in for an ugly afternoon, which obviously we don't want to see. But yeah, I'm going to go into my preferred 11 for this game, and I'll explain why. This isn't my expected, but my preferred. Remember that. So when you see it, don't say that, oh, that'll never happen, because this is just kind of my preferred, what I would want. So personally, if you have a look at my 11, I have gone with Patterson in goal, Sirkin 09, Ballard and Hume. Now, Ballard, after the previous game, he was seen with a boot on his leg. I believe it was just a precaution, and he should be fit for this weekend. And although I think Ballard had a really poor game against Plymouth, I think, it's a one-off, and I think a handful of players had some bad games, particularly in that second half against Plymouth. But all in all, Ballard is a very, very good defender. If Ballard is still holding a bit of an injury or even just a bit of a knock, I would heavily advise, or I would want us to be playing Mepham. Mepham has got loads of experience, big brick shithouse against a physical Middlesbrough side. He would be ideal, but I don't want to throw Ballard under the bus after one poor game for him. And if he is fully fit and he does genuinely feel okay and 100%, then by all means Ballard should start. Otherwise it would be Mepham for me to make his debut. Now in the middle, I would have liked to have changed this up. However, Samid, our new signing, he is injured and he isn't even training until next week, I believe. So he's going to be some way off. And Brown as well. He's picked up, I think, a bit of an ankle injury, but he will be returning to training, or he will be fit as of next week, I believe, or at least another week, Regis did say. So we don't really have too many options now in the middle to go for. So it's pretty much unchanged from last week with Dan Neil, Bellingham and Chris Rigg. I want to see a lot more from Dan Neil in this game. I don't want him to use his just pure emotion. And I'll say it for a lot of players in this team now for this weekend, because the temperatures will be high in terms of aggression. There will be an atmosphere as well. Let's not go overboard with it. Yes, go in forcefully, put yourself about the pitch, go strong in the challenge, but don't start just digging out plays for the sake of it and losing your head, because that's when you end up getting the monstrosity, which was the game against Borough last time at the Stage of Milan, and we don't want that to repeat itself, do we? Now up top, I've put Mundle on the left, and Mundle, again, he really impressed me at the weekend, not just because of his goal, but as I did say in the review to the game against Plymouth, I thought he should have come off, because he is very hot-headed. He is very hot-headed. I thought he'd get his head down, because they were throwing him around like a rag doll, and don't get me wrong, he was giving it back. The crowd were booing him and getting on his back, and you can see he was losing his head a little bit at times, but he was still cracking on, getting his head down, driving at players, still playing well. He wasn't sulking, kicking about the pitch, doing nothing. He was really going for it. Eventually got his goal, even whilst they were kicking seven shades of shit out of him and booing him and all that kind of stuff. So it shows he can thrive of that kind of atmosphere, but just needs to learn to control that anger. Very similar to Dan Neil as well. Paddy Roberts on the right-hand side, he had a very, very good first half against Plymouth. In the second, there was a couple of times, a little bit like Mundle, he was sort of single-handedly trying to drag us up the pitch, but nothing was coming to fruition at all. It was a pretty poor outing in the second half against Plymouth, as I say. Now up top, this is just more of an experiment for me. Mayenda has played every game so far this season. I know it's only been 5 games, and he has scored a handful of goals, and he has played generally quite well. But being as young as he is, I think it would be nice just to test it out. And I think against a team like Middlesbrough, I think putting someone on as raw as Mayenda up top, I can see him just being lost in that back line against Borough, who are physical, they're organised. I can see it just being lost. Isidore, a little bit more experience, and he has that. If you see him in his interviews and the way he talks, it seems like someone that would thrive off that kind of atmosphere, get stuck in, but do it correctly, like I said, not just losing your head. And he'd be desperate to do well. And he's already said that he wants to score 10 plus goals this season. And I think this would be a great game to do it in. Give Mayenda a bit of a rest, give Isidore a start, and I think that could give us a really good chance to get back to winning ways against Middlesbrough. Now, in terms of my score prediction, I don't know whether that is going to be the lineup, of course. I actually think it's going to be pretty much unchanged from the weekend. Maybe he might change Ballard if he isn't 100% fit, potentially, but I think he's going to go largely unchanged. But we shall see. Like I say, it'll be very interesting. However, I think it's going to be a 1-1 draw, and I'm saying that in almost a bit of a hope, because I just don't want us to lose back-to-back. Of course, I want us to win, absolutely, but I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. I'm not going to underestimate Borough. They're a good team, a good, solid team, and I think we're going to score first, and then they will score relatively quickly. I think they're going to be 2 first-half goals, and then the second half, it's just going to be a bit of a blow-for-blow, see what happens, but no one will break through and get the winner. So that's the way I think the game's going to go 1-1. But like I say, I'd have predicted a couple of weeks ago to a mate of mine, another Sunderland fan, and I was saying I can just feel that when we lose our first game, there's going to be a dip, and it's going to be a really bad one. And I'm hoping I'm wrong. And I said this before the Plymouth game, and we got beat. And I'm not saying that's a told you so moment, but I can just feel it, and I don't know why. I don't know whether that's just the Sunderland fan in me. Hopefully we can just quickly get back to winning ways this weekend now. But yeah, so that is everything, guys. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. What do you think of my my preferred lineup? What would you go with? And yeah, so what do you think the score's going to be? Who would you go with? Let me know in the comments down below. I'm not entirely sure whether I'll be making another video this weekend. I will just be totally honest with you guys. I don't know whether you've made it this far in the video. I might end up taking a little bit of a break. Apologies, I'm getting a bit deep all of a sudden. But and I know that I took a little bit of a break with the international break, and then prior to that, I'd of course had a family member passing away, so I took a little bit of a break from YouTube anyway. But as of the last few days, it's looking as though I may be losing another family member, which I'm not going to go into detail with. I'm not going to ask for a sob story or anything like that. But yeah, so I'm just trying and keep pressure off myself as much as possible, which I know these videos aren't massively high pressure, but it's just, you know, I think just keeping your head straight type thing. But I will keep you updated with as and when I'm going to be doing things. Sorry, I'm chatting shit now. But yeah, I thought I'd just be totally open with you guys. I didn't want to just disappear in case something does happen. But either way, guys, hit the like button for me. It'd be massively, massively appreciated. And subscribe if you are new. Still so many of you guys that are watching the channel so much and aren't subscribed. Just do us a favour. It puts a smile on my face. See you soon, guys. But for now, take care. Stay jammy.